All right, Scott, let's give some love to our partners over at NVS, Surf NVS Fins.
Yeah, look, I mean, fins, there's one thing we've been talking about as we watch the electric acid surfboard test. It's how important fins are to surfboards. And, we got the single fin, we got the twin fin, we got the tri fin, we got the four fin, we got the five fin, we got the bonzer fin. We got fins, man. Fins are what's making surfboards happen. And our good friends, Leif and Jamin over there at NVS, have got quite a portfolio of incredible fins to choose from. Not the least of which are our favorites, the Sea Drive. And frankly, I like the Taylor Knox twin fins with the little, what are they, the wolf? It's got the little cut tip, the little
Wolverine.
tweak out of the tip of the fin.
Yeah. They do, I mean, they have all the traditional stuff that you mentioned, but they also have specialty fins like the Sea Drives or like the Shane Horan fins. They have asymmetrical fins that they've designed specifically for album surfboards. They sent me a pair of asymmetrical fins for a quad that I have that they just made as one-offs. So it's like having a custom fin shop, basically. And then the customer service between the two owners, Jamin and Leif, are there to communicate with you. So it's really kind of unparalleled access and expertise. And then the fins themselves are top-notch, made out of the G10 laminate. So they're actually guaranteed for life. That's how indestructible they are. So check it all out at surfnvs.com. I think it's Naked Viking on Instagram, at Naked Viking. And then also they're available at Real Water Sports, believe it or not, our retail partner over in North Carolina.
I mean, look, later in the show, I'm going to have a few last minute Christmas gifts for you to consider. And it's as simple as typing in realwatersports.com and getting some last minute gifts for those friends and family that are surfers, that like the ocean, that might require some new goodies.
Absolutely. 1,500 surfboard inventory and kite gear, foil gear, all the stuff that you actually need, and then all the stuff that you want, like coolers from Yeti, beach towels, blankets, all that sort of stuff. Available on realwatersports.com.
As we see some movement at the takeoff zone, it's Kelly Slater grabbing rail.
Yeah, guy. David, it's what is it? It's Christmas Eve. I was going to say New Year's Eve. It's Christmas Eve, and this is Spit. This is the Spit Podcast. David Lee Scales and Scott Bass with you, and we talk all things surf, what's happening in the surf world currently, and good morning to you, David.
Very good morning, Scott. Christmas Eve morning. Is it an exciting day in the household, the Bass household?
You know, it's very quiet around here. It's just my wife and I, and we're cruising. You know, we have a dog.
Are you going to get time with the kids for the holiday?
Yeah, my daughter will come by, and we'll have dinner with my daughter and my father and his wife and my mother-in-law, and yeah, it'll be good. It's our house has never looked more celebratory and Christmas-like, and it's just, my wife has done a wonderful job of, because we don't have any kids in the house, there's nothing to do but decorate the house. So the house is just completely decked out. It looks beautiful. She's wonderful. She did a great job of making it look spectacular.
Do you miss having the kids in the house?
Oh, dude, always miss the children. I mean, especially when they grow up and are such wonderful adults, like it's just fun talking with them and having grown up conversation with them. And, you just learn so much about yourself and about life through the prism of adult children. It's amazing.
I've got to spend a little bit of time with your kids. You guys did a great job.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much.
No, they are. They're obviously contributing members of society at the bare minimum, but they're interesting, smart, well-rounded, everything.
Yeah. It kind of blows me away. I think all credit goes to my wife.
Pause 1 second. I want to turn the light off.
Yeah.
Well, it's the happiest time of the year, and I guess we should probably open just with a debt of gratitude to our listenership who's been with us here for, I feel, 12 years now, if I'm not mistaken. And I think my intense love of surfing may have waned if I did not have, or just maybe not the surfing, the act of surfing itself, but the researching and the learning more about the history and the following the news and all that would have waned if we didn't have this weekly obligation to the listenership. And at times it does feel like an obligation. It's like, oh, okay, I got to study up what happened this week and I should look up clips, watch some YouTube videos. But in the end, when I look back at it, it's like I'm so grateful for it because my appreciation is so much deeper. And I would have just spent that time doing something mindless and frivolous. So my love of surfing, I think, has been amplified through our listeners and our interactions and obligations to doing it.
Yeah, we're lucky, you and I. We were very, very lucky. And I know that you and I both acknowledge the blessings that have been bestowed upon us and that we get to interact with the surf culture and the surf world. It's quite fun. And, it's a good thing. So, yeah, thank you for listening to us. We appreciate you.
Absolutely. And the lucky and the grateful part for me is because of that, this weekly commitment, it's become a job. And if I didn't do it, I'd be working some other job that I don't enjoy as much, or that I don't enjoy at all. Like this, I thoroughly, thoroughly enjoy. So I am honored to have the privilege of being able to talk about surfing every week for a living.
Well, I'll tell you, around here, the waves have been quite small, and I've been foiling quite a bit. Jeff Baldwin and I have been foiling in Del Mar the last 3 days in a row, and it's been fun. That's such a wonderful thing that when it's tiny, you can still go super fast and do super radical cutbacks, and it's kind of mind blowing how fast you go on a foil, and it's just been a fun few days here, even though it's flat as a pancake.
What have been the muscles that you've gotten into shape due to foiling that you weren't necessarily utilizing in regular surfing?
Well, I'm glad you brought that up, actually. The thing that I really enjoy about foiling is the cardio that I get. Now, many of you have seen what has been probably rightly so deemed kind of gross or ugly, which is the pumping technique that foilers use to go back out into the lineup and pick up other waves, or even sort of the worst faux pas, which is pumping when you're on the wave, but you sometimes do have to do that to keep up speed, to keep the foil in the water. But during that pumping action, it's kind of like, well, it is like a pump track at a skate park.
Yeah.
The cardio is incredible. So to answer your question, lower legs, lower muscles below the waist, all those leg muscles, and the cardio, it's really great. And I appreciate that at my age. I need the cardio and the leg. I got chicken legs. There's not much meat on those bones.
In terms of like the thighs, the quads and the hams, it feels or it looks like you're never not engaging them. Like with surfing, you can stand up and kind of relax. If you were to get a super long wave, there's moments where you can just stand there and kind of recoup. It looks like in foiling, you're fully engaged always.
Yeah, there's a lot of truth to that. There are moments when you're not doing anything, when you're just gliding, when you've got that pelican moment, which is sort of what I seek out, is the pelican moment. You're fine. You're not using any leg action. But you're right, like 80% of the time, you're doing one thing or another. You're trying to find that pelican moment. And you can get that for a long time, but often it drops away, and you have to pump to keep up speed, as I mentioned. So, there's a lot of work involved, and it's good.
Well, while the waves may have been small in Southern California, Hawaii, Jersey, the entire North Atlantic, there's a couple of new potential world records being set at Nazare from 5 days ago. From Surfline, they did an article, not even an article, they did a video. It's like a 12-minute video. I've talked to you about this in the past. They've been doing it as a kind of a series where they kind kind of collect all the video clips from different YouTube creators and even Instagram creators that have gone, viral on a given swell. They're somehow tracking that, saving them, compile them into the video, and then offer a little bit of narration of what was happening with that swell so that you could see the best waves of a given swell moving through the North Atlantic. So they've got that on their YouTube channel. I should probably look up the name before I'm done sharing this information, but they said on the release of the video, in 2025, we monitored a dozen 50-foot storms across the entire globe. So over the course of the year, they monitored a dozen. 6 of these were in the North Atlantic. 4 of these happened in December alone. As Nick von Rupp, whose entire career is focused around chasing such things, said, "It's been one of the craziest months of my life. It was the most consistent amount of waves I've ever surfed in the Atlantic." End quote from Nick. Surfline goes on to say, from Mullaghmore to Mundaka, Supertubos to Safi, it's been a special few weeks for Western European surfers. Here's why and how. And there's the video.
Yeah, that's sort of the lead, isn't it? What I have in my notes for today's show is that what we're seeing, at least in Ireland, is sort of a combination of cold chopu, meaning the cold cloud break ledge section that is this wave known as Mullaghmore, Mully for short. And you're right, gosh, this recent XL run of swell in the North Atlantic has been mind-blowing. I'll tell you what, if you're a regular foot, even a goofy foot, but if you're a regular foot, there's certain spots that you have to go to that are on your bucket list, like J Bay, for instance, Sunset Beach. The one that needs to be on there is really anywhere in Morocco. Morocco, these other waves, they mentioned Safi, but Morocco's got so many perfect right points that when you get these large North Atlantic swells, you're going to get groomed 6 to 8 foot Moroccan points that are just so good. I often refer to it as the way Baja should be, It's like, the Baja points are fun and they're good waves, but Morocco's like Baja point waves on steroids.
Well, the other thing is for every level of surfer, there's long beginner waves that are like kind of unbelievable how perfect it is for a beginner. And then there's Safi, as far as I know, is kind of the most serious wave on that coastline, and everything in between.
Yeah, that's a great point, because there are like little points that if they were here in my hometown, I'd be like, oh my God, that's the best wave ever.
Yeah.
And it kind of is. Like, it's just a rippable, like, old man right point that, I would have a blast on a fish on, But then you can step up your game and go to the more sort of known spots. But Morocco's got to be on your list if you're a regular foot. Just put that on your list. But speaking of Mullaghmore,
culture and food and everything too.
Yeah, it's funny. Somebody asked me, they go, do you remember the food when you were there? And I just remember I did eat real locally, like at a person's home. And there was a bowl, and it was just really spiced up and flavorful. I think it was probably lamb, but I don't have anything bad to say about the food. I remember being starving and scarfing it down,
Yep.
What I was going to say, of course, is, to me, the big story is this December 18th swell at Mullaghmore, which is all over the internet. Everyone's seen it. And many of the big wave surfers pulled up to surf this. And Nick von Rupp is incredible. So Stab sent me this thing, and they sent it to you too. Basically, like, vote for Surfer of the Year, And they were really, I thought, did a good job of going, look, this award is for the most impactful surfer. Not necessarily the world title winner, but the most impactful winner. And I chose Yago Dora as the most impactful surfer of the year. But right there was I'm going to butcher his name, but it was Matahi Drole.
Mm-hmm.
Because what Matahi Drole is doing at Chopu is just like crazy next level. That one drop ride that he got was probably, for sure, should be the ride of the year. Might be the best ride ever as far as a paddle and wave. But Nick von Rupp could not be overlooked here. He's perhaps the most underrated sort of traveling big wave free surfer on the planet. He's everywhere at all times. And it's kind of mind blowing. I didn't see his name. I don't remember seeing his name on the list of impactful surfers, but I want to throw him in there. I obviously didn't vote for him. I thought Yago Dora deserved the surfer of the year, but Nick von Rupp, David, this guy's everywhere. And and every time you see him, he's pulling into some massive heaving barrel.
You know what's crazy? I'll try to make an analogy to mainstream culture, but sometimes, like, I don't follow soccer, for example, football. And you see, like, Lionel Messi, I think, has more Instagram followers than Taylor Swift and Kim Kardashian and whatever, all combined. You know, and you're like, that can't be. Taylor Swift's huge. Kim Kardashian's huge. We're so egocentric or American-centric in what our reference points are that it could never dawn on us that Taylor Swift's not the biggest celebrity on the planet, you know? But she's not. And I think Nick von Rupp falls under that trap a little bit. I think he's Portuguese. See, I don't even know his.
Could you pick him out of a lineup?
Yes, I can now because I've gotten enough exposure, but I'm helping you. I think I'm trying to get to the bottom of your point, which is the guy's incredibly good looking. He's had mainstream sponsorship all along. He's putting in world-class performances and generating tons of content, self-generating tons of content on every major swell. His name's right there in the mix with everybody else whenever anybody reports on it. But for you and I, for some reason, he's just, adjacent to what we're looking at. But it's long overdue that he does get his acknowledgement from you and I. The other thing is he speaks perfect English. So there's no reason that we shouldn't. Like, if we didn't understand when he's being interviewed, then we could easily chalk it up as like, whatever. But he's there doing everything.
Let me do this exercise for you.
Okay.
More impactful, Nick von Rupp or Yago Dora?
I was shocked that you put Yago Dora first. I think the argument could be made for Nick von Rupp for sure. I just looked up his social following. He has 326,000 Instagram followers. Let me look up Yago as a reference point. I'm certain Nick von Rupp has more YouTube followers. So if you're just basing off those social metrics, he's got more engagement. So
I don't think you can. I don't want you to base it off of that.
Yago has 418,000 versus Nick's 326. So Yago's got more on Instagram. Yago's got a world title, so obviously that's what's going for him this year. It's hard to identify the measure of that or the impact of that. But Nick von Rupp is pumping out content weekly. So I feel like his exposure level is higher.
Yeah, it's funny, this word impact, right? And how, because I sort of looked at it like, that's important, impact, but here's how I looked at it. I'm like, Matahi Drolet, I almost feel like we've had Chopu overload. And you see so much Chopu that you're kind of, you know how it is. You're just, what's the word I'm looking for? You're just saturated, oversaturated. And you've seen it, and it's just kind of like, oh yeah, another Chopu tube ride. And I was thinking to myself, because I was very close to going, it's Matahi Drolet. Like, what he's done is insane. Again, not necessarily impactful as far as what your measurements are, this social media feed. But I was looking at it more like, kind of screw the social media, but who's the most impactful based on, I don't know, just maybe what Scott thinks is impactful. But it was between those two. And I thought to myself, well, could Yago Dora do what Matahi Drolet do? Could Yago Dora hang out at Chopu all his life and be Matahi Drolet? And I said, yeah, I think he's got the talent to do that. But what he did is he went on world title and took the pressure of having the number one seed in the world and lived up to it. And so to me, the competitive pressure can't be overstated. But let me get back to my exercise. Nick von Rupp, more impactful or Matahi Drolet?
Nick.
Tosh Tudor or Nick Von Rupp?
Might be my California centrism, but I think Tosh has had a bigger year.
Nick Von Rupp or Molly Picklum?
I think Molly Picklum.
Nick Von Rupp or I don't know, somebody that's super impacted. How about Nathan Florence?
They play in the same space, and Nathan's got him beat.
Who's more impactful, Nick Von Rupp or Mason Ho?
I think Nick.
Nick Von Rupp or Gabrielle Medina?
This year, Nick Von Rupp.
So I'm looking for my Stab Surfer of the Year ballot. I don't think Nick Von Rupp's even on there, but I don't want to misstate that for Stab's sake. I don't want to be the one that messes that up. But I don't remember seeing Nick Von Rupp on there.
I don't know that I didn't look at it that hard, but I do know in the past they basically let you vote for whoever you wanted. And now this year they sent it out with pre-selected, a limited number of options to select from, basically.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit of a different format for them this year. And I think it was probably just too unwieldy to allow you just to write in candidates, basically.
Well, they chose 5 or 6 people, and they said basically, look, we're going to nail it. We're going to eliminate a bunch of people. So these are people who can and should win the most impactful Stab Surfer of the Year. It was Yago Dora, Huey Vaughn, Griffin Colapinto, Noah Dean, Tosh Tudor, Tom Myers,
and
Matahui Drole.
So Tom Myers is the Sydney. What is he? I want to say he's a plumber.
He's sponsored by Florence now.
Well, now he is. But those 2 massive swells at that balmy at Sydney, he got almost identical waves on separate swells that were the wave of the swell, and broke the internet with those. And deserves a shout out. I don't know that he'll win this award, but he certainly deserves. I mean, I like that they included him because it just really does drive the point home that a local hero was the standout on these days.
Nick Von Rupp or Noah Dean, more impactful?
So Noah Dean has real huge impact in Australia, and his surfing is unreal. But to me, Nick Von Rupp.
Nick Von Rupp or Griffin Colapinto?
Griff.
Huey Vaughn?
Huey Vaughn did unbelievable stuff this year, but I think the reason why Stab's including him is because it was all Stab properties that Huey, performed in and won. So they might have a little centrism there, but it was still unbelievable, the surfing that he's doing, and it definitely deserves to be highlighted.
Well, I just wanted to point out that, Nick Von Rupp goes under the radar. He falls under my radar for sure. You mentioned he falls under yours a little bit. And for whatever reason, he does seem if we really excavated and researched what he did in 2025, I bet we'd be blown away by how many times he's at the spot. He'll be at Kandui left. He'll be at, all over the world, basically.
And then, massive swell this last week at Mullaghmore, pulling into bombs.
Wasn't he at Nazare too?
And then at Nazare competing in that event. He's always at Nazare for all those swells. So he is a local at different spots around the world on the best swells at each spot. So absolutely great call and worth our acknowledgement. I will say maybe some of the reason why I have not mentioned him in the past is a couple of years ago, I reached out to interview him for the podcast, and he's like, yeah, absolutely, we'll do it. And I'm like, sweet, let's get a date. And he's like, okay. And then I follow up, hey, what's the date? When are we going to do it? Never hear back. Then, got
big league.
Not big leagued so much because he was communicating. He just wasn't following through to do the interview.
Yeah.
But then again, he was chasing swell around the planet, and he was on airplanes.
Some North American bias and some
hurt feelings.
Hurt feelings. I have a Who Said That,
okay,
if you're ready for this.
Real
said
quick,
that?
Mullaghmore,
Yeah.
Tom Lowe also needs a
Oh,
shout
yeah,
out from
thank
his
you.
performance.
Incredible. Like everyone's seen it, but the way he sneaks under the lip there at that last second, I thought for sure he was dusted. He was kind of down at the bottom and the board was chattering a little bit and it was straight offshore. But that wave, like I said, it's kind of a mix between Chopu at some points or a huge cloud break, the ledge section at cloud break. And I watched some video yesterday where it was pulled back a little bit, so you really get a sense of the reef that's right in front of where that wave, like it's boiling. You can see the fingers almost popping up. It is shallow right there.
Yeah, that line that you're talking about where he's at the bottom, what you realize is as he's projecting, you want to, as the wave kind of hits that portion of the reef, you want to be at the bottom. You need to be in that low road.
Yeah.
So as he's taking off, you're thinking he needs to swoop off the bottom and pull up into the barrel. But it's as the thing aligns on the reef, you actually need to be below sea level on the low road to get the shot. And
Yeah,
he's
just
doing it on
heaves
like,
over.
and he's doing it on a 9.6 probably.
And there's something about the low contrast sort of gray skies and stuff that doesn't give you a very good perspective of where the lip is relative to that boil and how it's kind of ledging up. When it's sunny and blue, like at Chopu, you can kind of see that ledge starting to happen and understand, yeah, you better be low here.
Well, it makes it
definitely
makes it look extra scary when it's that dark and all
Well,
that.
that's the thing. It's super cold and straight offshore. It's not like blue, warm cloud break or even Chopu. Chopu always seems to be kind of glassy.
It looks treacherous.
I mean, the level of difficulty, how much more difficult? Now, you and I aren't big wave surfers. I've never surfed a wave like that and never will, but we know enough about surfing to know that the level of difficulty, is it 2 times more difficult than cloud break or Chopu? The water's 55. It's straight offshore. The air is probably 45. It's freezing.
I'd say it looks more gnarly than Chopu. I
would agree. Based on the cold.
But the takeoff is more approachable.
Yeah. Well, they're towing in. There were some paddle ins. There was a lot of tow ins, but
they
there
were
was
paddling
paddle ins.
in for sure.
Yeah.
Nick Von Rupp and Tom Lowe, their best clips were on 9-foot boards.
Connor McGuire is the local guy that towed into a mean one that just like was next level and huge.
Yeah.
35 feet.
Yeah.
So as you mentioned, some potential records. Feels like some of the biggest waves.
Well,
and it was a run of Swell. It was like 10 days or something.
Yeah, while we're on that, before we get to the who said that, as it relates to records, Nazare specifically looks like it's going to generate a couple. Rodrigo Coxa is on a potential 95-footer from preliminary assessments. Laura Crane is I think she's a British surfer who I've never heard of before, but she's throwing her hat in the ring to dethrone Maya Gabiera as the largest wave ever surfed by a female. And Bill Sharp said there's probably 5 waves this day that are going to need to go under scrutiny and examination to see if they are record setters.
And do you know the number that we're trying to beat and who holds that record? Because it all just gets kind of blown out in the wash with me. I want to say, is it Garrett or is it, while you're looking that up, I will tee up the who said that. And David, this is the segment of the show where I try to stump you. I will say a quote from a famous surfer. And within that quote, there will be hopefully enough clues that you might guess which of the 4 surfers it might be. It won't be completely opaque. There will be moments that should tip you off.
Thank you.
Did you tee up the world records?
I did. I should have known this because he's on the docket to be interviewed in the coming weeks. But Sebastian Stutner. And
what does it say that you had to look it up?
That I don't follow Nazare very closely. But once I saw,
this would be a fun on the street thing, like at a parking lot with surfers, like who holds the world record?
Yeah.
I bet nobody knows.
Well, because talking about impact 5 minutes ago, it's not that impactful.
Exactly.
We're not really tracking it. So Sebastian Stutner, German big wave surfer. He rode an 86 footer at Nazare in 2020, which is officially certified, and then later rode a potentially 93 footer in 2024, which is awaiting verification. And now, if
So my
Rodrigo
question is-
Coxa could
I'm sorry.
potentially, Rodrigo Coxa's recent ride could dethrone that.
Okay, thank you. So my question is, it feels like Bill Sharp and his organization should hold, the authority to say this is the world champion. Why do we need the Guinness people to do it? Why not have
Well-
Bill Sharp, who knows the most about it, who's been doing it for 35 years or whatever, been measuring the stuff, has seen it all. Why not have his organization be the be all end all, the final voice of authority on the largest wave ever surfed?
Well, you're under the misconception that the Guinness Book of World Records is prestigious. Do you want to hear some other Guinness World Records that are currently held?
But is it the Guinness World Record that everyone's shooting for? Is that who Sebastian? Is that who holds the? Is that the organization that he holds the record with?
It is currently, and I think it does have value for his Porsche sponsorship that he currently has. They can hang their hat on that and know that's meaningful. But it does have credibility, of course, but it isn't prestigious, is my point. Because amongst the other Guinness World Records that are out there, I'm going to read from a list: breaking toilet seats with your head, balancing spoons on your body, eating unusual foods with chopsticks, animals achieving speed on scooters, showcasing humans, creatures, talent. Oh, okay. That goes on. Most candy canes in a beard is one of the categories that somebody won. So it's not, it does carry a certain amount of, recognition, but I wouldn't say that it's prestigious. And the reason I think that Bill Sharp has not committed to the cause is there's no objective way to measure it.
Should there be a Guinness Book of World Records for most days without using shampoo in your hair?
The way that the Guinness works is you self-submit, so I should absolutely self-submit that right now.
I think you're the winner. I don't think anyone comes close. So back to what we were saying. So Bill Sharp, now maybe Bill, well, this will get to Bill and he can let us know, but is there a difference between what Guinness has said and what Bill Sharp's organization says about who holds the record?
I don't know the answer to that, but I do think that Bill is operating under what I just said, which is we don't have an objective way to measure. And once we do decide and agree upon, then we will commit to the cause.
Right.
And to be honest, look, you and I have discussed this a bit in the past, but it's worth revisiting every couple of years. And that is, I think there needs to be, my current thought is, I think the measurement should be based on energy generated from a wave. Because an 8-foot wave at Chopu arguably has more power and is more life-threatening than 20-foot waves somewhere else, Yeah. And so when you look at like Nazare, which some people have called a mush burger, and you can't even see the trough of the wave, or you don't know where the trough of the wave is, but it might be 100-foot, quote unquote, by whatever their measurement is. And you look at a 60-footer at Mavericks, the 60-footer at Mavericks may actually have more power and life-ending potential if you were able to measure that the energy that it's generating.
Life-ending potential. The LEP. The LEP.
That needs to be one of the criteria.
Well, who said that, David? I'm going to say a quote. You're going to tell me who said that. Tell you what, actually, before we do that, let's take a quick break and we'll come back and we'll do the who said that.
Professional tease.
Okay, welcome back to Spit.
All right, I'm ready.
Okay, this is who said that. And I quote, famous surfer. Yes, I'm having a lot of success with my boards. Being a good surfer, I get free speed. I've never shaped a slow board. So I figure, well, I want to be the best, of course, and I think I can be. Although I've got to give credit to Al Merrick because no one touches him. No one comes close. I don't care who you're thinking of at the moment.
Can I guess? Can I guess before you even give me the multiple choice?
Yeah.
Richie Collins.
No.
Okay. I'm ready for multiple choice now.
Who said that, David? Was it A, Wayne Lynch, B, Dave Parmenter, C, Glenn Winton, or D, Alan Byrne?
Jeez. Huh. I think Al Byrne or Glenn Winton. Maybe Al Byrne.
Glenn Winton. That's okay. Glenn Winton. Mr. X said that. I love that he said he's never shaped a slow board.
I know. Yeah. Hilarious.
I believe it too. That guy was a great surfer and probably still is. I'm sure he's still with us.
Yeah, I mean, I think he won a Masters event on some island somewhere 6 or 7 years ago.
Yeah, he may have. And of course, he was making four-fin surfboards way back in probably 85, 84, 85, right after the tri-fin came out. He's like, okay, let's put some fins on some boards. And he absolutely ripped on them, you know, and charged it pipeline and was a good surfer.
Did that quote come up for a reason?
No, I was just scouring Matt Warshaw's Encyclopedia of Surfing, and there's so many great interviews, you know, that he puts up there. That was from Deep magazine in 1995. And I want to say Deep is Deep a European magazine, like from Great Britain, or was that an Australian magazine?
Don't know.
Yeah.
Well, along those lines of putting fins on surfboards, I have in my notes to discuss this Reno Abellira video that Tony Roberts posted on YouTube a couple of days ago.
Yeah.
Our good friend Tony Roberts, friend of the show, but also if you're on YouTube, it's Real Surf Stories. And he does these mini documentaries. I'll get into more of that in a second. But as it relates to fins, Reno discusses in the piece that he put 3 fins on a surfboard a decade before Simon Anderson. Or the date that everybody identifies as Simon Anderson, quote, inventing the thruster. Of course, the Campbell brothers were doing it as a bonzer setup as well around a decade prior, which you could make an argument that it wasn't the same style of 3-fin, and it certainly wasn't a thruster. But Reno's version of it was much more similar to a thruster than it was a bonzer. So that is worth noting.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, I guess there's a difference between a thruster, which was basically taking the twin fin, shrinking the side fins down just a bit and putting an equal-sized middle fin in. And these other boards were more like single fins that had side bites, either bonzer side bites or smaller, 2 1/4, 2.5 inch side bite fins.
Yeah. Well, I will direct everybody's attention to YouTube to go watch this Reno Abellira video. It's largely, first of all, Tony Roberts, Real Surf Stories. Tony Roberts has been a super high-level surfer and skater since the beginning. And then as a teenager, picked up cameras in Santa Cruz and started documenting the surf and skate scene that was happening. And was, world-class filmmaker and photographer all along the way, but had access to a lot of those kind of very pivotal time in Santa Cruz, and then was traveling the world with O'Neill making films. So he has all this my point is he has all this archival footage that he always draws from. And that's kind of what his YouTube channel was created with. But in recent years, he's been really focusing his attention on excavating surf history. And what he's done and what he does with this Reno Abellira video is basically cull all the information that exists everywhere on the internet, like goes and watches every Reno interview, Reno podcasts, or I don't think Reno's done any, but with other people, listen to their podcasts, even read articles that are digitized and available, and then collect all that information and put it in one spot and create a narrative with it. So it gives you it is a Reno documentary. It's 35 minutes long, gives you his upbringing, which was rough. His dad, I don't know how much you know about this, but his dad was basically involved in organized crime in Honolulu and was the enforcer. So he was just a badass, and ends up getting shot and killed when Reno's like 15 years old. Reno gets embraced and mentored by some of the best known surfers and shapers of that era because he was a very talented young kid who was spending a lot of time in the water. And he and Jerry end up being mentored and under the tutelage of Dick Brewer. As part of the team of riding Dick Brewer's shapes, are forced, or just maybe not forced, but just through circumstance, spend time in the shaping bay. And they learn how to shape from Dick. But they each kind of go down their own path of styles of boards that they're, interested in riding. Reno, probably more sunset, haleiwa. Jerry focused more on pipe. And then the world comes through their backyard. The Mark Richards, all these guys. And so now there's a sharing of information. So anyways, Tony does a phenomenal job of tying all these interviews together to create a cohesive narrative arc that makes sense. And really, this piece is largely about the shortboard revolution. It's absolutely about Reno, but it really dissects, pinpoints dates, talks about McTavish showing up, all of this to really dive in deep to the shortboard revolution and Reno's involvement in it.
Yeah, look, Tony sent me the link, and I apologize now. I've been meaning to watch it, and that email got pushed down into the depths. But I really do want to see it, and I love what Tony did. I really enjoyed Tony's Real Surf Stories on Jimmy Rotherham, and I'm a huge fan of what Tony's doing, and I look forward to watching the Reno thing because Reno, like you say, he's one of these really interesting characters. He's sort of at the center of a lot of stuff that's happening, and some of the greatest surfing I've ever seen was on a Reno Abellira shaped surfboard, which was Mark Richards at Honolulu Bay, and I think it was 76, and that's that beautiful, wing pintail that MR's riding at massive Honolulu. And he's just doing the most stylish wounded gull bottom turns into the tube. And I'm a huge fan of all things Reno.
Well, I mentioned this probably 6 months ago. I think I might have done a Who Said That with you. And it was Reno was the guy who said that. And it was from an article that he had written in the 70s that ran in Surfer magazine. And I didn't realize that he had had a little secondary career as a writer. He was making contributions as kind of a journalist. And what I was reminded by from watching this series or this piece with Tony was how smart Reno is. I'd never realized that. When I was growing up and I'd see images of him surfing or whatever, I knew of his importance and had a certain appreciation for his surfing talent and shaping ability. But as I've heard him talk now a number of times, it's dude, the guy was so savvy and articulate. Really great communicator.
Super intelligent guy. No doubt about it. And I look forward to watching that. That's going to be good.
Well, in addition to all the things that I just said that make it absolutely a must-see moment, there's so much surfing in it. Tony also includes tons of surf footage that is just so great to go back and watch.
Well, I mean, you think about Reno, do you think about the twin fin? And if you don't, you have to, because Reno inspired Mark Richards. Mark Richards basically copied one of Reno's twin fins. Reno let him ride the board. I think it was at Johanna or one of the world events. It might have been one in Puerto Rico, but he let MR ride one of his twin fins. MR was blown, either that or MR saw Reno riding it, and he was blown away by the speed and talked to Reno about it. And then from that meeting came the Bumblebee twin fin, Mark Richards' first iteration of the twin fin, which was a much more rounded nose, a bulbous nose, something that you wouldn't think of when you think of Mark Richards' twin fins, you know, his later versions of it. But so Reno's right there. And then you mentioned the tri-fin, right? And of course, Reno had these crazy slipper nose boards for about 6 months that he did with Inter Island surfboards, I think with Brewer and some other people. And yeah, I mean,
Well, those exact stories that you just told are told from the mouth of Mark Richards himself and Reno. The Mark Richards thing was, it was actually Narrabeen, and Tony posts a photo that I think is exactly that session. It's a water shot of Reno bottom turning on a right on a little, what looks like a Steve-less fish, super small. And Mark was like, everybody else was riding single fins and bogging, and Reno was flying down the line, just absolutely on a different level. So Mark does borrow from that, but then they cut to Reno talking and saying, I would always work on my own design that I thought, you know, I was the best at. I was on this kind of cutting edge doing these things until somebody else came and did it better. And that was the case with Mark. Mark borrowed from me, did his spin on it, and then took off. And he's like, well, I guess he's the twin fin guy now. I introduced it to him, but he's the master of it. And now I'm going to go down a different path.
yeah,
So humble.
yeah, that's cool. I'm looking forward to watching Tony's bit on Real Surf Stories.
Yeah.
On YouTube.
Yeah. And then the other board that you were just referencing that he borrowed from Brewer, the designs he borrowed from Brewer were actually designed by Joey Cabell. That was his white Rhino, I think is what that board model was that made the impact. So they discussed that too.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because Cabell Brewer was living on Kauai at the time, and Cabell and he had worked on that for Honolulu.
Well, that's the thing about these real surf stories is that I always learn, you know, like Tony does such a good job of stitching it all together that there's a lot of loose parts to my internal narrative about what happened that's just not correct. And so Tony dials it all in and brings it all forth and kind of focuses and clarifies things.
Well, that's why, like I was saying, all these things exist. You've seen these 5 different Mark Richards interviews at different places at different times, and these 10 Reno interviews. But he pulls them all, puts them together, creates the narrative arc, so it all makes sense at once.
Yeah. Well, got to watch it. And I mean, the good news is when you go to Real Surf Stories on YouTube, you're going to get lost in so many great clips that Tony's put together, so many great stories, you know?
Well, you know who I had the pleasure of interviewing for 2 hours yesterday?
I mean, can you give me a hint? Somebody that was in the Real Surf Stories?
Somebody that was not being interviewed in it, but definitely played a role in the shortboard revolution, was referenced in our conversation already here today, and is Australian.
Mark Richards.
Bob McTavish.
Oh, good for you. What a wonderful interview he can be, man.
Yeah. And
so good.
So one thing that he and I discussed, and that I think is relevant to this conversation, is that it's hard to put a pinpoint on who invented what, because a lot of people were coming to the same conclusion around the world simultaneously. So Bob's first example was when he was a kid and he had started on this 16-foot, basically a paddle board. It was a plywood board that his dad bought off of a lifeguard. They rode that. The thing would purl all the time. It was a terrible board to ride. Well, then he eventually got a balsa board that he purchased from somebody that was also too big, that he shaped down into a more foiled, kind of refined version. Years and years later, actually, I think when he was out at the boardroom show, he might have had this epiphany prior, but he also, when he was out at the boardroom show, went by Bird's Surf Shed and found a Kivlin in the rafters. And it's like Kivlin was making that exact. He's like, I shaped a Kivlin back in the day. When I was a kid, I shaped a Kivlin without knowing it. We just landed on the same. We were in the water trying to do certain things, and the design was limiting us. And so instinct led us down this design path. And so it happens. I mean, Kivlin's might have been a little bit earlier, but Bob didn't draw from that as inspiration. He just landed on the same solution.
Yeah. Well, super fascinating. And it made me think of, the Kivlin, what the Kivlin is in that Malibu chip that Quigg and Kivlin did, and a couple of other guys, is they took the Simmons board, which was super popular at the time, and they just went, okay, but if we make them small and thin, they'll ride deeper back in the pocket. They'll be better. And they made those against, I guess, sort of maybe making Bob Simmons mad. But so they made smaller and thinner because it rides better deep in the wave pocket. And it made me think of the haleiwa. Like, in a weird way, you could make a connection that this haleiwa board that the ancient Polynesians were riding was super thin, and you got to ride really high and really fast. And they made it long because they're so thin, you need it long just to catch the wave. Yeah. So they had these, 12-foot haleiwas. But once you caught the wave, you were flying, and somehow we missed that, through the post-colonial Polynesian times. Duke and those guys, they're riding castles. They're on these massive, thick redwood slabs. And anyway, it's so fascinating, right? Bob's correct, right? There's just so much intertwining stuff that happened unbeknownst because we were, thousands and thousands of miles apart. But we all come back to what's going to ride fast and high in the pocket of the wave that's going to give us the most speed. And so it's easy to see why people can come upon the same designs based on we're all surfers trying to get the same thing, which is what Glenn Winton mentioned earlier. I've never made a slow surfboard.
Well, there becomes points where there is cross-pollination. And amazingly, we still have access to a lot of these people who were there on the day of the pollination. And, I've interviewed Dick Metz talking about landing in Cape Durban, I think it was, and John Whitmore is riding a wave on the beach, and he loses his board, and the board comes to Dick Metz's feet. And he's like, this thing's crude. Let me tell you about polyurethane foam, and that sparks an entire thing. But with Bob, one of Bob's stories is Rennie Yater showing up, George Greeno showing up, and Greeno shows up. He's walking down the beach, introduces himself, and he's like, we did not leave that spot for 2 hours. We just stood there for 2 hours just sharing ideas.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
Yeah, of what, before Greeno even paddled out, I think. Right. Like, Greeno was holding the board, the knee board, and Bob's just like, what the hell is that? And so there's these moments of pollination that you can point to and say, this is where ideas started to be shared. But there also was people coming to conclusions on their own, which make it very murky to ever say, Simon Anderson invented the tri-fin because Reno's like, no, we were doing that earlier. It didn't have the same flashpoint impact that Simon's did for whatever reason, but we had already done that.
Well, and in some regards too, like when you think about is the Guinness Book of World Records or is Bill Sharp's viewpoint on the wave size, you're just going to have clashing opinions on that. And a great point, a moment in time is Honolulu Bay in 1967 when McTavish went over there and Brewer was there with Lopez. And there's conflicting narratives about what happened and who ripped it. And like Witzig will tell you one thing and the Brewer camp will tell you another. And it's kind of fascinating, and it's not to say that either of them are wrong. They're just the prism and the viewpoint that they had on that moment in history.
Well, the Real Surf Stories piece does address that as well. And I don't remember if this is what Tony said or if I had this conversation with Bob, because they were all in the last 24 hours. But basically, the design that McTavish was working on was the Plastic Fantastic wide tail with a lot of V in the tail. And Brewer was down a design path that was much more pointy tail, pintail, single fin. And they're both designed for maneuverability, basically. Taking away tail shape will allow you to maneuver more, but also the V on the wide tail will allow you to turn the board, lean it over, basically. And so McTavish and Nat Young came over and competed in Oahu at an event on those boards that were entirely different than the pintails everybody else was riding from Brewer, and they lost early. And so then they went over to Honolulu Bay on Maui and lit it up. Like, go ahead.
Here's the thing. I mean, let me stop you there, because even that little portion of the story has different viewpoints, because they were surfing in a contest at Sunset Beach. I think it was the Duke, or it couldn't have been the Duke. He probably wasn't invited to the Duke, but I don't know what event it was, but it was at Sunset Beach.
Smirnoff, maybe?
Maybe the world. I don't know. It was early. It was '67, so I don't even think the Smirnoff was happening then. But maybe it was the Duke. I don't know. But the point is, it was an event at Sunset Beach, and from what I understand, McTavish landed at the airport and hauled ass to Sunset Beach and just paddled out like red-eyed, and ate shit on a couple of waves, but did do one bottom turn that made everyone go, "Oh my God, what's going on with that board?" And I think, and I don't want to put words into Bob's history, but I think Bob would be like, "I just wasn't on my A game, and man, maybe the waves were too gnarly for that design. I don't know." But you'll hear others from the Brewer or the Hawaiian camp say those boards didn't work worth shit at Sunset. And Bob's basically saying, I didn't have a good chance to really show what they could do out there. Then I went to Honolulu, that same day, but Rising Swell and on Maui, and Nat Young and I absolutely ripped it. And basically, Witzig wrote a big article about it. And, they kind of owned the day. Now, I think the Brewer camp will tell you that they didn't. Or no, that they did, but that Buddy Boy was absolutely ripping on the Brewers as well.
Yeah. Well, not only did Witzig write an article about it, but that session was the closing section in, I forget which of his films, but a super influential film of that era. Yeah. I'm looking at Surfing Heritage's Instagram account posted 190 weeks ago this story and a picture of Bob McTavish holding that exact board. It was 1967, Sunset Beach, as you mentioned. It doesn't mention the name of the contest. But what Bob said was, we came to Hawaii in November of 67. Nat and I simply blew the 8-foot up to 9-foot because we were going to tackle Sunset and thought we needed the paddle power, but it was another dud. Turned out the boards were too wide in the tail and they spun out. Then we ended up on Maui going to Honolulu, and it was nowhere near as good as at home in Sydney on the head high, but it was nowhere as near as Sydney on a double overhead day. Okay, I don't know. That's not relevant. But, yeah. The picture of the board's interesting. It is super duper wide.
Yeah, and the Brewer camp, and if you watch the Brewer movie, it talks about, like I said, there's just different viewpoints of what happened in history. And so these sort of tipping points, or this cross-pollination that you're speaking of, it's kind of what makes our culture so fun, is that there's no real one guaranteed definitive who made the tri-fin, who ripped at Honolulu that day, who made the shortboard. All this stuff is, I mean, a great example is, when was the first man-on-man professional surf contest? Well, everyone points to Peter Druin and the Stubbies event in '77, but you and I have talked with people on the East Coast that will tell you, no, it happened in Florida way before then. And we've got proof, there's printed proof of it.
Yeah.
I think it was the Florida Pro, maybe.
I'm not sure. I forget now, too. That's the other thing, is my memory is also
You and I
faulty.
can't even get it straight.
We get the direct information and then forget it. Well, anyways, go watch, obviously, the Reno Abellira documentary from real surf stories. And then I will publish the Bob McTavish long form interview in the first 2 weeks of January, I believe.
Who did the first aerial? Boom, another one that just.
Well,
and
Tony-
that's when Tony will discuss that at length.
Yeah, Tony
Right,
has
was
a
it
2-part.
Was it Kevin Roberts? Is that it?
Well, there's a Kevin Reed in Santa Cruz.
That's what I mean. Was it Kevin Reed,
Again.
or was it Davey Smith, or
Again, go watch Tony dedicate, because that's Tony, one of Tony's passions, aerial surfing. He did a deep, I think it's a 2-part documentary piece that are about 30 minutes each, and he interviews all those guys, Keckley, all of them. And he was there for a lot of it. So go watch that if you want to get to the bottom of it. Scott, we have unofficial Triple Crown winners.
wow, Triple Crown of surfing.
I
was
ran the
thinking about
numbers.
this. Okay, let's hear it. What's going on?
I ran the math. We've had a haleiwa event on the QS. We've had the Sunset event, and now we've had the Florence Pipe Pro. And Carissa Moore takes the women's title, and Finn McGill takes the men's.
Wow, Sunset Pipe and haleiwa, and this is like the David Lee Scales Triple Crown.
This is
Unofficial.
This is
The Spit. This is the Spit Triple Crown.
This is the unofficial Triple Crown on Spit, but the maths. The math is the WSL's own math,
Right.
or it's based on their numbers. So basically, Moana Jones Wong put in a good run because she competed in all 3 events. She got a 2nd, a 4th, and a 13th with 3,210 points. Carissa Moore only competed in 2 events. She did not compete at Sunset, but guess what? She got 2nd at haleiwa, and she got 1st. She won the Florence Pipe Pro, which means she got 3,560 points, takes the win for the women. Carissa Moore, back from retirement, chaired up the beach with her baby.
Baby in hand.
I mean, look, I discounted her, right? You and I even placed a bet on where she would finish at the end of the CT season, which is yet to be determined. But this is a good sign that she is off to the races.
Yeah, good for her. And couldn't happen to a better person. And she and Finn McGill are your Triple Crown winners.
She deserves the win, too. I mean, I don't know if you watched any of her surfing, but...
I didn't.
Well, the first heat at haleiwa, she dropped like an 8 and a 9. First heat back from motherhood, like unbelievable. And then at backdoor, or at the pipe event, which was mainly backdoor, she was surfing the best I've ever seen her surf backdoor. Getting barreled, doing big carves. It wasn't crazy, like scary backdoor, but she had the place wired, and obviously took the win.
Well, I got to say, if Mother Nature, cooperates, this season could be a really momentous, like earth-shattering, like 20, 30 years from now, the historians could look back and go, this 2026 season on the WSL, with all of these names coming back. I mean, there's so many stories on both the men's and women's side. It's going to be fascinating. We just need the waves to cooperate.
Yeah.
We need it to be 8-footed bells. We need it to be really good Gold Coast. We need it to be pumping at all the events. And, it's going to be a fun season.
Totally agree. And then Finn McGill, congratulations, and kind of dominated the Triple Crown, to be honest. He won Sunset and haleiwa. I guess he got a 33rd at Pipe, but winning 2 of the 3 events is enough to secure the title for sure.
Right on. Well, I'm glad you did the numbers. I have an interesting story, maybe not. But Newport Beach, there's a petition that seeks to put an already approved surf park to a citywide vote. So this guy, Steve Vickers, he's the referendum proponent. He's against the Snug Harbor Surf Park in Newport Beach. And Steve got 9,500 signatures, put them on the desk of the Newport Beach city clerk in hopes of forcing a citywide vote on this development. Basically what happened is the city council just approved this Snug Harbor Surf Park, which is going to destroy the Newport Beach golf course. And people are up in arms about this. So it looks like in November, there will be a vote on, do we want the surf park in Newport Beach or do we want to keep the golf course? My question to you, David, should they keep the existing golf course or should they build a surf park in its place?
Golf course.
Should they keep the golf course or should they build affordable housing on the golf course?
I have no opinion on that.
Affordable housing in Newport Beach, is that a thing?
That's an oxymoron.
The state of California seems to be able to force affordable housing on different municipalities, and I often wonder, well, where is it in Newport Beach? Where is this? Is Carmel? Does that have affordable housing? Is that a thing?
No, there's Santa Ana for affordable housing. It's right
I
down the
guess so.
street.
Westminster.
Tustin.
All right.
I've got a question for you.
Yeah.
What uses more water in the course of a year? A wave pool or a golf course?
Well, I mean, that's kind of a trick question. I would say probably a golf course, but they all use the recycled water, so it's not like they're pulling from the Colorado River.
Well, can't the wave pool use recycled water too?
Maybe if it's filtered, but I'm not swimming in golf course water, but I am going to be swimming and surfing in wave pool water.
So Google said, I mean, it's just remarkable the amount of water that a golf course uses. I've seen the numbers in the past.
25 million gallons a year or something like that.
Yeah. Let me look. The typical American golf course uses around 312 gallons of water a day. 312
recycled water though?
312,000 gallons. So over 250,000 gallons a day.
Times 365.
How crazy is that?
I think it's recycled water though.
So it's like 17,000 gallons per hole in a day. And even over 1 million gallons a day in dry areas. I mean, I'm sure it is recycled, but it's still unbelievable.
Yeah.
That's way more than a wave pool, even if you account for, evaporation.
I'm sure that's some of the argument that was made to the city council when they approved, not an argument, but part of the proposal was, hey, we're going to save water here with this surf park.
Yeah. Unbelievable.
Newport Beach and a surf park. It's interesting, isn't it? Like, does Newport Beach really need a surf park? I mean,
definitely not.
Look, it's free market. If it works, it works.
Well, no, but the free market, I think, will validate that the golf course is a better use of, or is more profitable.
Like there's a lot of old retired dudes that need the Newport Beach golf course. But actually, if you live in Newport Beach, you probably belong to a country club anyway. So do you really need a municipal golf course?
I don't know. Actually, I don't know how well attended that golf course is, but I think there's far more golfers than there are surfers in that area.
Yeah, I think I may have played that golf course. Is it in Costa? It might be in Costa Mesa. I think Rob Havasey used to play there a lot. But anyway, I've got a couple last minute. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I have one follow up from last week. We were talking about Ellis Erickson, or not from last week. I think from Monday. I don't know when. Anyways, Ellis Erickson won the electric acid surfboard test. Congratulations. You and I talked about the fins. We were confused by the fins. A listener on YouTube chimed in and said, Hanalei Fin Company in Hanalei, Kauai, has been making those fins for a long time. That's what they are, and it's the Q series. So if you
Robin Mayer.
That's right. Thank you.
And the Q series from Hanalei Fin Company?
Yep, that's right.
Cool looking fins. And as we mentioned at the top of this show, fins, super important and sometimes too often overlooked.
Yep. And what were the closing thoughts that you had?
I've got last minute surf related Christmas gifts.
Yes, let's hear it.
David. So the first one is a really great gift. The Surfer's Journal subscription. Simply go onto the Surfer's Journal website, buy a subscription for your surfer in your life. And it's the gift that keeps on giving, right? It gives all year long. This thing's just going to come in your mailbox. It's gorgeous. It's beautiful. It's wonderful. So the Surfer's Journal gifts or subscription. This is one that I've leaned on. You know, look, it's December 24th. You got to pull something out of a hat here for a surfer in your life. David's holding incredible imagery from the latest Surfer's Journal. So that's one last minute gift, right?
I love it. I'm, by the way, publishing that Jeff Devine interview today. He was the photo editor at Surfer's Journal for a long period.
Killer. And the next one is, here's a thought, Go onto Waterways. Buy a ticket for you and your loved one to visit Costa Rica. You put the email confirmation of your trip and your ticket in an envelope and stuff it in her stocking. Surprise, surprise, we're going on a vacation this May to Costa Rica. Pull that out, and boom, you just nailed it.
That's like when Homer Simpson gave Marge a bowling ball.
Very similar. This is where I was inspired. Homer inspires some of my best thoughts. So,
Hey, honey, I got you a gift. She's like, wow, cool. Surf trip for you to go surf? Sweet. Can't wait.
well, it's funny you say that. That's why I mentioned Costa Rica, because, you know, you're not going to take your wife to Morocco. I mean, probably not. But Costa Rica, there's a lot of fun stuff to do for everybody.
No, it's a fantastic destination. Great call. Waterways is the go-to. By the way, last I heard was 2 weeks ago, there was only 2 spots left for our Nicaragua trip for week 2. So I don't know if they're gobbled up yet, but if you want to go to Nicaragua with us in April.
What if TR shows up in Nicaragua? That'd be cool.
No, he's there. He'll be there.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he'll be there. He's like, hey, when you guys come to Colorado's, let me know. We'll connect.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah, he'll be there.
Right on. Well, that's going to be a fun trip. I'm super looking forward to that.
Yeah.
And, all right. Well, look, David.
Oh, one final thing. Surfrider Foundation for sure. Surfrider Foundation, surfrider.org. They're nearing 1,000 coastal victories since their inception. We're going to see that happen. Tick over into the 1,000 mark in 2026. Support the cause. Become a member at surfrider.org. That's also a gift membership idea.
I was going to say that.
Yeah, and then the must-see moment presented by Treeswax, petroleum-free surf wax. I just got feedback from a listener who said they're on it and they love it. We could save 20% by using promo code SPIT, and then it's guaranteed, online guarantee. If you order online, you don't like it, they'll give you your money back. So anyways, must-see moment presented by Treeswax is the Reno Abellira piece.
Okay, go to YouTube and check out Real Surf Stories, the Reno Abellira piece by Tony Roberts. Super good. I'm looking forward to seeing it. I love all of Tony's work. Great history.
Yeah, you'll love it.
Okay, well, David, we've said a lot. Until next time, adios and aloha.